So recently I was talking with someone about the new book that we're releasing called Love by God. And they were saying that it was very different than the other books that they've previously read of mine, because a lot of times what I do when I'm writing a book is once I get the final draft together before I go to editing and publishing, I'll send it out to a number of friends and ask them what they think. It's like, give me some feedback. Let me know if there's anything that hits you that needs to be changed or impacts you in particular that I need to be thinking about. And one of my friends said, this is just so different with the way you wrote this. And they said the other books that you've written seems as though they came from a place of pain, versus this book seems like it comes from a place of being on the other side of pain. So it's pretty interesting to have that conversation. And so I'm recording this video to kind of talk about that. If you've read any of my other books, or if you ever do, just really seeing the difference of what God does over the years as you're working on your relationship with him. And I think about it from the point of view that when we're going through things or struggling with things or struggling to get to know God or struggling to get to know ourselves or deal with situations in our lives, we are in pain. We're in pain, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically. Sometimes we're in pain financially, relationally. And what happens is we don't realize necessarily how that pain's showing to the rest of the world. And it's interesting when you think about how when God takes you through a journey and when you come out the other side, it's so different. It's so refreshing, is what the Bible calls it, is that you'll have times of refreshing. And so I guess if you notice that's the topic of coming out on the other side, is that we have to be willing to go through the desert, if you want to call it that, through the tough times. And the thing that a lot of people don't think about is that when you're in a relationship with God, it's no different than if you think about how you're in relationships with people. Your relationships don't stay stagnant. They shouldn't stay stagnant. Your relationships aren't the same all the time. Sometimes you have super, super highs, and sometimes you have not so great of a time. And some of those times that are not so great of a time are times where you think about, do I even want to be in this relationship? Do I even care about this relationship? I'm tired of this relationship. I'd rather not be in this relationship, or whatever things go through your head when you're struggling in situations. But when you think about a relationship with God, and I think over the last, especially couple of years, I've been studying this for years, but really the last couple of years have really hit me, like especially with writing this book, is that everything in life is about relationship. Everything. From the time you're born, you are in relationship. You're in relationship with the parents that bore you, whether they keep you, meaning whether they give you up for adoption, whether they leave you, abandon you, or whether they stay with you, whether it's a healthy relationship or not. Everything's relationship. And so a lot of my journey over the last 30 years studying the Bible has been learning how to have a relationship with God, how to understand that relationship, how to be in that relationship, and then how to learn from that, how to be in a relationship with myself. We don't think a lot of times about that we're actually in a relationship with ourselves. We can't get away from ourselves. We're everywhere we go. So being in a relationship with ourselves means, how am I doing mentally? How do I think about myself? How do I consider myself? How do I talk about myself? How do I treat myself? And then that also spills over in, how do I treat other people? And am I treating other people the way I treat myself? And so when I think about the other side, is that when you go through that desert, when you go through that wilderness, when you go through that fire, when you go through that struggle or that tough situation, every time when you come out the other side, it's a time of either refreshing or accomplishment, or yes, definitely grateful it's over, and grateful that you've gone through it in the sense of that's behind me. But those are normally the times that we change the most. I can't say I like those times. I would love to avoid those times. Sometimes I try to avoid those times or run away from those times. But those times are the times that I can look back in my life and say, that's when I changed the most. That time that I was flat on my face, crying and weeping and begging God to help me with something, or to change me, or to let me make it through that situation. Those are the times when, if I were to give a timeline of the very specific times that I've changed in my life, or what has transformed me in my life, it always comes down to those things, those times. And a lot of those times also involve decision making, because many times we wind up in hard situations or painful situations because of decisions that were made. Sometimes they're decisions that we make, sometimes they're decisions that are made for us, or sometimes there's decisions that other people make that wind up being consequences for us. So when I think about what are the decisions that I had to make, or what are decisions that were made in that situation that helped me get through this journey or helped me come out the other side. And so I use that kind of as a framework as I go through things now in my life, and I evaluate it and I say, you know, what's causing me pain? Is this a pain I can get out of? Is this a situation I can get out of? Is this a situation I need to go through? And I always ask myself, what can I learn from this? God, what are you teaching me? Is this a pattern for me? And I've noticed that in my life where I've had patterns of certain things, and it seems like I keep going through the same thing. And it's like, hey, maybe I should evaluate what this pattern is and break the pattern and make a decision to not continue in this pattern, and then evaluate how to avoid that pattern in the future. So I guess for me, writing a book from one side of pain and then coming out of on the other side of the pain, this book, Loved by God, is really just a heartfelt pouring out of my heart, a gratitude and a love and a thankfulness for being able to come out the other side. And just as grateful as I am to be where I am now. And I definitely would not want to say I would want to go through those things again. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change what I've been through. I wouldn't change the situations that have happened, because it honestly has made me who I am today. So I hope that encourages you. If you're going through anything, or if you're struggling with anything, just understand that this life is a journey, and it's a journey of lots of relationships in every part of our lives, personal and work and spiritually with God, and just how to navigate those relationships, how to deepen them, how to be more effective in them. And hopefully this will help you with that concept and start thinking about that.